Good day, whatever time zone you're in. I am Mark Cohn and moderator for this panel discussion on the rapidly evolving telco cloud. I've been involved in the open networking movement for over a decade, and I've been a longtime supporter of Layer 1, 2, 3, and it's absolutely a pleasure to be able to chair this particular session on one of the most important technology areas. For the past decade, telecommunications operators have struggled to exploit the explosive growth of the public cloud. Originally, CSPs attempted to compete head-on with the cloud industry by building their own public cloud or private clouds rather, and also coming up with some innovative partnerships. Today, what we're seeing is a bit of a shift because major operators are partnering more frequently with the hyperscalers, and they're actually divesting some of their cloud assets, and they're channeling their limited investment dollars into other complementary technologies. In this panel, we're going to assess the state of the telco cloud, including target use cases, the prominent players, and some of the factors motivating a major evolution. We're also going to examine the moves that some of the larger operators are going to be making and how the industry is responding to the emergence of the public and telco cloud intersection. So our panelists represent a broad cross-section of the industry, including a product executive for the global leader in managed SD-WAN services, the head of innovation for a Pan-African operator, and a product management lead for a cloud-hosted mobile technology provider. While this is a pre-recorded session, we encourage you to submit your questions through the event platform. And while all the panelists will not be able to take your questions during the live session, we will certainly respond within days following the session if we can respond in real time. So before we get started, I'd like to ask each of our panelists to offer a brief introduction, starting with Nico.
Hey everyone, thanks Mark. Thank you for setting the stage here. I'm Nico Walters. I head up innovation at CMC Networks, focusing primarily on all things software defined and our customers' cloud journey. And migrations and connectivity in general. And then at MEF, I also co-edit the Zero Trust specification that's coming out hopefully next year, early next year, as well as actively working on SASE, SD-WAN, and a few other commercial and business committee specifications as well.
Thank you, Nico. Rod.
Oh, thanks, Mark. Hello, I'm Rod Makin. I'm the Senior Director of Product Lifecycle Management within NetNumber. I've been working within the telco industry for more than 20 years and working at NetNumber for the last 8 years. I'm currently working on productizing the 5G network functions and also migrating our intergenerational product portfolio to cloud-native solutions.
Thank you, Rod. And Frank.
Hi everyone, hi Mark. Happy to be part of this panel discussion. So I'm Frank Morales. I'm today representing Orange Business Services, where I'm the VP Connectivity Services. I've been doing that for let's say somewhere around the last 8 years. I'm in the telco industry for more than 30 years, like few of us, let's say. So, and I have the great honor to be as well a MEF director, MEF taking care of everything around all these evolution in the WAN industry, SD-WAN, of course, SASE, orchestration, and API in order to facilitate all that. Of course, among all my responsibility, I'm in charge of everything related to connectivity services from the LAN side up to the cloud connectivity side, which is among one of the topics today and probably one of the hottest topics currently with our customers.
Well, as you can see, we have a very broad cross-section, and I'm really happy to have all the panelists. So thank you again for joining. All right, so now we're just gonna launch right into it. So the first topic is going to be on the opportunity that telco cloud represents. So telco cloud encompasses an extremely broad scope, from the multi-cloud environment to a single public cloud provider to private clouds that the telco operators are actually embracing, and even down to virtualized edge and universal CPE. All of that is comprised, all of that is encompassing telco cloud. So as a starting point for the session, I'd like each of our panelists to share your own organization's assessment of the opportunity that telco cloud represents to you, and of course, some of the challenges that you are encountering as you go down this journey. And I think I'd like to start with Nico.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. So obviously, telco cloud in Africa is a completely different animal compared to the rest of the world. We have 54 countries, which is 54 regulators, 54 different ways of thinking. So the opportunity there is pretty strong. We have data sovereignty. We have policies around data being moved out of countries. So that's where we see the opportunity for CMC Networks as a Pan-African provider, really to take these service locations and expand. So yeah, I think the concepts around data moving out of countries is a really big problem that we have to face, and where we store data. So the opportunity of providing that telco cloud service in country is where the opportunity lies. At the same time, the challenge around dealing with these regulators and providing more of a consulting type of or providing a consultative approach here to the regulators to really guide them along, understanding where the opportunities are for their own, let's say, national people that they deal with. That's the challenge that we have, really coaching and making them understand, and also getting them to understand that the large hyperscalers and cloud providers aren't a threat, but they're actually again, it's an opportunity to really grow and provide better services to their their people in the country itself. So as a whole, those are some of the things I think, and the opportunity again is in new products and services, new countries. Once you get past that consultative process and really making people understand that this is a really good thing, and it's going to drive innovation and services in general.
Yeah, Nico, we thought we had it complicated in the United States with 50 independent states. 54 countries in Africa is going to be a challenge for sure. All right. So Rod, can you offer a net number perspective?
Yeah, sure. Just on that though, that's a great summary, Nico. And I was nodding along to your commentary there because I have similar views on that. But in truth, telcos have an enormous opportunity in front of them with the cloud facilities. If I just start by just looking at 5G and the way that it was standardized with scalability it's at, but more than this though, it's partitioning and slicing and dicing that you can do for those partitions and offer them to different network segments. It lends itself to the cloud environment naturally by allowing this multi-tenant scalable propositions. Telcos now have the opportunity to create cloud native solutions, delivering services and resources right where you need them and when you need them. So the challenge with 5G is not whether it should be in the cloud, it's what kind of cloud it should be in. And you mentioned earlier on that there's different types of cloud models. There's a private cloud model, which is what they've embraced so far. There's the hybrid, where they have some artifacts within their own private cloud and some within the public cloud. And then there's public cloud models. Now, with any of these models that's not entirely within a common infrastructure, where some of it is hosted either in the cloud and some of it's not, there's invariably some levels of interoperability and subtle version incompatibilities that occur. Indeed, I think there's a recent study by GSMA where I think it was GSMA NG126 cited this as a direct problem that they've got, along with other compelling reasons why to go to a common cloud infrastructure. Now, you're probably waiting for where the opportunity is, but I understand that the nature of this discussion is based on telco clouds, But we shouldn't really neglect the other assets that the operators have, which is the internal IT infrastructure. So why limit this migration into the cloud with just the telco core? Why not do it with the enterprise IT? So there was a recent Gartner report which explored the total cost of ownership of migrating to the cloud over 3 years. And it found that by the end of the 3 years, the costs are dropped by 55%. So the total cost of ownership is massively reduced by just embracing this public cloud model. So the message here is common. There's enormous benefits of embracing the public cloud in its entirety. And maybe there's an opportunity for telcos to do this and reap the rewards by fully committing to the cloud infrastructure.
All right, thank you, Rod. And we're going to touch on some of those themes a little bit later. So Frank, why don't you offer Orange Business Services is part of one of the world's largest operators, and we're curious to hear about how Orange views the cloud opportunity.
Yes, Frank. And back to what Nico was saying. Nico was speaking about opportunity to be looked at locally for local markets. We are looking things in two ways. As you may know, Orange Business Services is addressing at the same time the whole French market, from SMB to large accounts, and of course the multinational market for the international scope. And let's concentrate maybe on this one. And on this one, let's say that when I heard telco cloud in terms of opportunity, is first of all, I'm hearing something which is speaking about the telco and the cloud. And it's not for us an opportunity. It's something that we need to do. We need to do in order to keep our customers to answer, first of all, our customer needs. Because what we are seeing from our customers is what, at the end of the day? They are trying to keep up the race of the innovation. They have to go cloud native, and especially after the 2 years we have just spent, they have to embrace a huge number of innovation in terms of technology. They have to embrace the IoT world. They have to embrace the working from home. They have to embrace the cloud transformation, the security, the SASE, the SD-WAN. It's a very huge world that they have to embrace in front of them. And in the meantime, all this goes to companies which are more and more, let's say, expanded. There are people working from home at 50 or 70% of their time. They have IoT, they have sensor everywhere in the world in their factories, but elsewhere to be able to monitor all that. And in all that, one thing which is absolutely key for them is the customer and employee experience while connecting, while doing their job, while being able to give some information from sensor. So to all that, we need to make sure that at the end of the day, the infrastructure, let's say globally, work and behave like the cloud is doing. So they are expecting to have a service provider that is able, first of all, to connect them to the cloud, which is maybe a basic, but it's something that they need, because of course they are doing that in a multi-cloud domain. And I can't remember if it's Rod or Nico was saying there is cloud everywhere. Could be cloud at edge, could be cloud at telco edge, could be cloud at central edge with Hyperscaler. So it's really something that they are requiring, this connectivity to the cloud, but they want more from us. They want to consume our services like they are consuming the cloud on demand with the right reactivity. But on top of that, they are asking for security for all that. They are asking for data integrity, and when it's where it comes with the compliance and all the constraints that we can have on the regulatory side. So all this require, at the end of the day, to be able to merge all the cloud technologies with all the network technologies. And this could be done in several manners, of course. Could be done inside, as moving things inside the cloud, as Rod was speaking about the 5G, which is natively done to make that happen, but could be done in another way. So it's really where we are seeing at the same time huge opportunity and at the same time a kind of obligation to make that happen.
Thank you, Frank, and thank you all, because I think you're all touching on some of the same themes. I mean, I heard 5G a lot. We can't have a networking discussion without that, for sure. And it's the first inherent standard that actually was built upon cloud technology. So that's certainly going to be prominent moving ahead. And then, of course, there are the issues related to the changes in the workforce. I mean, this whole notion that work from everywhere and hybrid workforces. I mean, this is the new reality that we're leaving in a post-pandemic world. So thank you for addressing that. So now I'm going to move on, and we're going to try to be more concise because our time is flying by. So I want to go to the edge. And with the rollout of 5G, as we heard about earlier, unprecedented impact of the global pandemic and the widespread outsourcing to public cloud providers of workloads and data, edge clouds have never been more important. Appledore Research projects that the edge cloud market will exceed $25 billion US by 2025 and double-digit growth over the following decade beyond that. So I wanted to ask each of you, what are the priority use cases, just one or two, that your organization is considering based on an edge cloud, and what benefits are you actually seeking from addressing those use cases? And Frank, since you sort of brought it up, maybe you can start by giving us a concise view of your thoughts on the target use cases for edge cloud.
Yeah, for the edge cloud, and I understand when you're speaking about edge cloud, you're speaking about on-site. And for this one, what we are seeing currently is everything, of course, related to application where you absolutely need to have the let's say the short-term latency that you could have. So we are experimenting application around the facial recognition in order for security entrance in some, let's say, very sensitive sites where the facial recognition could be done locally by a server, let's say, could be compute all this locally, and then we are doing the in a central cloud. We are providing all the data in order to do analysis later on who's there, who is enter at which time, and get out at which time, and so on and so forth. So we are looking at that. Let's say that on the application side, it's something that it's running quite well. Then is how this should be done locally, let's say, in terms of infrastructure. So there is still plenty of capacity to make that happen. Could be done through a VNF running in a UCPE. That's something that we have experienced. Could be done in a standard compute. We are looking as well as what Hyperscaler are also able to provide on that with Amazon and Azure and Google as well. So I think the market in terms of usage, we are seeing more and more the usage that will be there over the next few years. What is still to be defined and to be clear for everyone is what will be the right infrastructure considering the TCO global of the infrastructure. That's something that we are looking at currently.
Thank you. And how about you, Rod? What is your thought on edge cloud, and what are some of the target use cases that NetNumber is trying to leverage with the availability, or at least the initial availability of the edge cloud infrastructure?
Well, thank you for that. And I think the target use case, as was alluded to, is really surrounding all of the low latency applications that can be used, and this for us can range from things like automated drones and things like that, and coordinated in-car technology that will allow the applications to almost activate and deactivate themselves autonomously. Now, to move this on a little bit further, I think that there really is a demand for some killer apps within the ecosystem, and actually that's kind of where I actually think that the development environment that the hyperscalers have are going to really help out with this, to find this killer app that's going to be useful for all of these consumers to enrich the environment.
No, great, thank you. And we're going to touch upon the hyperscalers next, so I'm going to hold off on that for now. But anyhow, Nico, how about you? What is CMC thinking about the edge cloud?
Yeah, so I am super excited. I've been working with one or two of the hyperscalers to really push this out. Again, going back to our use case, we were saying, data sovereignty, et cetera, is a big problem. Sadly, our regulators are still very scarce when it comes to 5G spectrum. So although MEC is a real 5G use case and an amazing one for private networks, we're still going to be a while before we even allocate 5G license to make it happen. However, what we're trying to focus on is edge compute. So really focusing on that. Giving a lot of customers have moved or closed data centers. Power is super expensive in our areas, cooling, all of these things. So moving that out into big DCs is a bit of a problem because you have latency issues. So finding that middle point with multi-edge compute, providing virtual machines, VNFs to run radio access networks, etc. That's our focus for this. And I think it's going to be a pretty useful use case and something that's going to solve some problems. But that's where we're focusing most of our effort when it comes to the edge, is really giving some high quality VNFs and some compute and storage, obviously.
Yeah, thank you. And it's really interesting to hear the contrast between what's happening in Africa and of course the European and even North American perspectives, where technology, 5G is rolling out in a big way, and now we're starting to see some of these concepts realized. So this is great. Thank you, Nico. So now next, since we've already touched upon it, I want to talk about the role of the hyperscaler, because no longer is the question whether CSPs and the hyperscaler operators are going to partner and whether they're going to compete. I think they're going to do both. And the real question is, how broad will those alliances extend? And in one survey that I saw by Analysis Mason, the public cloud provider and partnership tracker lists over 300 distinct partnerships that were recorded and announced with many of the world's leading operators. So with that as a backdrop, maybe you can share your own individual experience on the alliances and the potential and even the risks with partnering with the hyperscaler operators. And Frank, I think that since Orange appears prominently in that list, maybe you have a good way to get us started on the hyperscaler. what that means to OBS.
That's fascinating. First of all, let's say that back to what I was saying for your first question is, hyperscaler are key, of course, in the environment. They are the ones who are driving, let's say, the evolution of the IT towards the cloud. And when you think about that, you can think that companies would have taken around 20 years to completely move their IT to the cloud and the cloud in general, thinking that by end of 2030, something like that, everything would have been moved the cloud. We at Orange Business Services are working with hyperscalers in the, let's say, in the network space for more than 8 or 9 years, doing cloud connectivity with them, having our direct connectivity to them in order to interoperate our backbones with their facilities. This is a huge development, and currently a very huge development. We are doing a lot at Orange Business Services. In general, we have a capacity expertise by hyperscaler, let's say, in order to accompany our customers in their transition to the cloud on the IT side. And of course, we are merging the two. We are merging the IT side and the connectivity expertise in order to accompany this globally, because you need to think about that. When you think about cloud and hyperscaler, you have the cloud connectivities, which is somehow to connect the users, could be employees or customers, to the front end of the application. But then you have the back end of the application where you need to do some things. And the back end of applications are more complex, because you can use several, for example, Azure region, or you can use some interconnection because one piece of the application is running in Amazon and another piece in Google and the global piece in Azure, and you have to manage all this. And this is more and more complex, is where, as Gartner is saying, the one is moving to the cloud, and we have to accompany this movement, and we are doing a lot in our expertise, in our role of, for example, for Azure, and we are expanding that for others, of Azure Managed Network Service provider for Azure Virtual One, is where we are accompanying our customers, and as well we are working with some partner, very innovative partner, to manage this, because it's the key element in what we are seeing in terms of development, this multi-cloud environment, because it's where company ending. At the end of the day, I think they will run things around 7 or 10 clouds differently, and it's very important for them to make sure that what they are running in Azure could be run in Amazon, or could be connected to Amazon, or whatsoever. It's very important to always have this view of multi-cloud environment.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about multi-cloud. It always has been. SD-WAN has been driven by this. So it's completely consistent. So let's contrast what's happening again in Africa, Nico, because I mean, it doesn't sound like public, or at least the public cloud providers, are quite there to the same extent. But where are they? I mean, maybe you can give us a glimpse.
Yeah, thanks. So that's a passion of mine, is working with these guys over the past few years to really understand. And I always say Africa is the last billion. So we're the last billion people that need to still be connected, right? So we only have a single region for AWS and a single region for Azure. That plan is definitely going to expand, and the role that they play in Africa is pivotal. And I'm going to just take it from a different view. It's not necessarily just innovation and products and services that they provide. It's also the fact that they have the message out there, and they get people in on the pay-as-you-go type of service. So they really allow customers to really dip their toes into this concept. For telcos like ourselves, we have to, there's a massive investment to get telco cloud working. Obviously, different types of commercial models. So I always look at it from the other end, where I see the hyperscalers really enabling people to get to cloud, and obviously CMC is a key player in that middle mile from the Azure cloud all the way through to the on-prem solutions. And then our role is really guiding those guys into cloud solutions. And then, as we said, now multi-cloud. We only have 2 real big clouds here at the moment, and it obviously interconnecting is pivotal. So yeah, my view on the hyperscalers, love them to bits. They really help people dip their toes into the solutions, and then figure out, in a consulting process where we come in, where do you hybrid, where do you go full, and then obviously where do you remain, at least for the foreseeable future, in some form of an on-prem solution, although that's not like where we want to be, but that's sort of where I want to really say, they're doing a good job there and really driving that part. And innovation is always handy. They always come up with the new things first, and partnering with them is a really great experience. We 30 years in connecting Africa, and they've got in innovation and the software and app side. So it's a nice partnership for us. Very key.
All right, great. And Rod, do you have anything else to add on the hyperscalers and what how they've maybe helped your business or threatened your business?
Well, yeah. So I think thanks for that good summary as well, Nico. That was really informative. Again, it's from the African perspective, which is really interesting. For me, I mean, the basic role of the hyperscaler at a high level is clear. It's just about infrastructure and resources, but it kind of becomes a lot more complex when you delve down into the details. If you take the leap that telcos are going to fully embrace this cloud model, and I actually truly think that they will. They need to. It's going to happen. They're going to need the resources to be able to manage, operate, update, and secure those resources. And this is where the experience of the hyperscalers can be used. This isn't new for them. This is stuff that's been developed for the enterprise IT world, and this is where they're going to add some value to this. They've developed the tools for automation management, and they'll provide these tools and services to enable these telcos to operate their systems in what is nominally an alien environment for them. They're all used to having their own environment they have full control of, and now all of a sudden it's going to be a little bit more uncomfortable for them. So hyperscalers can offer like the container infrastructure services. They manage Kubernetes, the master plane, cloud native storage with CSI support, container images and registries. And this is all the kind of stuff that the hyperscalers are used to providing. And Microsoft has acquired telco companies to connect enterprises via a gateway to the Microsoft cloud. AT&T potentially wants to buy 5G networks from Microsoft. More than this, the role of the hyperscalers have application development communities, and that's really where I think the value of this is going to come into play. This will globalize the telco market beyond recognition. I mean, imagine a global telco provider that can host services for multiple of their opcos being part of a single cloud-based solution. And this kind of alludes back to what Nico was talking about, where the component of the data from the regulatory bodies, movement of that needs to be really secured well. And it's important for the telcos to also to expose this service layer and data collection for analytics into closed loops and value-added service. And an example of this might be automatically mitigating users or user equipment for specific issues. I think there's some real value that these hyperscalers have, and all of the issues that have been raised so far, like the thing that Nico raised with the data regulatory data migration movements. That's going to be critical for the hyperscalers to manage and add that value.
All right, thank you. Now we're going to move on. We have limited time, so again, I'll remind our speakers to try to be a little more concise because I want to squeeze in a few more topics. But and the first one is a simple one. We've dealt with the heavy duty topics, so let's go to an easier one. Telco cloud security. That shouldn't be that hard, right? So while the cloud poses a daunting security challenge, the managed security services offers CSPs a major opportunity. In the 2021 SD-WAN Managed Services Survey, Futurium, an industry analyst, reported that managed security was among the top factors that motivated enterprises and enterprise end users to seek managed services, including SD-WAN. So I wanted to just ask you to address some of the important security challenges that you have in migrating to the telco cloud, and how your organization is addressing them. And actually, Frank, we'll start again with you.
Thank you, Mark.
We'll give you the easy one.
He's picking on you, Mark. He's just picking on you.
So let's say the challenge for companies is effectively in this full migration to the cloud, and the expanded companies with people working from home and so on, is how to make sure that I will ensure at the same time all the security and the performance. And it's probably where your survey is pumping up with this huge opportunity for network service provider, or let's say infrastructure service provider, like we can define as well, is we have this ability to manage from the site up to the cloud, and by ensuring the security in the middle to connect the users to the application. It's probably where we are seeing a very huge opportunity. Of course, it means that our own infrastructure is fully secured, but we have DDoS protection for the companies, but we have all of this. But in addition to that, it means that the security services, the zero trust, the web content filtering, the firewall as a service, everything is done inside this infrastructure, and that this infrastructure allows in the south side to connect to the users, could be on site, could be from at home, with the right level of performance, let's say. And in the meantime, that this infrastructure could connect to the cloud and to the multi-cloud, as we were discussing before. And it's where we are currently doing this strong move to creating our B2B telco cloud infrastructure by adopting and deploying all the cloud technology inside our backbone, inside our infrastructure, in order to make sure that this will be possible. And let's say we have very clever, very good partners on the security side, and they are able to develop, to provide very good services. And the idea by doing that is absolutely not to compete by developing our own services, which could be done for SMB in France. We can do these kind of things by buying services as a VNF or as a container as a service and deploying our own services. But let's say for MNCs, they are willing to get the best of the security services, and they know who they want to use. And it's where we try to, we are going to host inside this telco cloud infrastructure services directly provided by a cloud security services provider, in order to get the best of the end-to-end with the best of the security in the middle. That's where we want to go.
That's great. And Nico, how about CMC? Africa has to present some unique security challenges.
Oh my goodness! As an information officer, you can see I don't have much hair left. You know, it's a nightmare, right? I think when we talk about challenges, right, and trying to keep it concise here, challenges, we have security in so many different places. We've got on-prem security solutions, and then there's cloud, and there's hybrid cloud, and then there's this concept of outsourcing. So I think that the very first thing that Frank's on the mentioned that we wholeheartedly support is the concept of trying to get some cloud within the cloud for security. In other words, getting as much of that in a central place to manage, because it just becomes just unmanageable. And the risk, I mean, telcos are being targeted left, right, and center. So the risk here is quite high. For us offering services, customers get breached, and liability in the data privacy space gets put straight back on us. So I think the first challenge is to try and come up with a central SASE concept of cloud as close as, security as close to the edge as possible, managed by a strong security team, SOC the works, and then also being mindful, telcos don't have to necessarily be security experts. Now we have to be legal experts as well. And we really have to understand our local regulations. And we're talking massive impact financially. So in short, trying to centralize everything is definitely, again, going back to what cloud proposition really brings to the table. And then also the challenge, and not just being security conscious, but also being, conscious about regulatory implications and law.
Sure. And Rod, do you have anything to add on the security front?
Yeah, I mean, all great points, by the way, that Nico and Frank have kind of brought forward. And I realize I keep bringing it back to 5G, but that's kind of where my focus has been truly in this. So 5G has learned the lessons of the previous generations of networks with a clear goal of end-to-end security. Because the inherent lack of security was clear and obvious with the previous generations and the protocols that were in there. So, but now putting the 5G core into the cloud arguably puts security vulnerabilities and attack vectors in much more back on the agenda. And the considerations for security within the cloud have a completely different landscape than the telcos are actually traditionally used to. It used to be a closed shop. So the concept of, I think Nico alluded to it, security as a service has been illustrated that there's a need for this security. There's a whole landscape there that the hyperscalers can offer to the telcos in order to mitigate these risks. But an example of this would be something that the cloud would be able to offer multi-tenant capabilities to the telcos. And again, this comes back to the multi-tenancy and the data protected that's gone, so that you don't have leakage between the multi-tenants from one tenant to another. The cloud native solutions, though, the integrated third-party software, the security starts already with the software development. As an example, the third-party software integrated needs to be scanned for known vulnerabilities at the outset. In addition, the licensing terms of the components embedded within the third-party software needs to be checked. It's layers upon layers upon layers of scanning and security detection and vulnerability detection. And NetNumber is utilizing some third-party solutions in the software decomposition and analysis and the vulnerability scans, and it adopts the recommendations from GSMA. I think it's called NESAS, that we are adopting those schemas so that our software is as secure as it can be.
Oh, no, that's excellent. Thank you for sharing that. That's a really unique perspective as well. We are winding down our time rapidly, so I'm going to first, I want to thank all of the panelists once again for their very unique insights. I mean, we have 3 completely different types of organizations in this panel. That was intentional to be able to compare and contrast. I also want to thank Layer 123 for hosting this session. I think it's a really important topic. I suspect that in the years to come, we're going to see an evolution of telco cloud, and I think we'll be back next year to address this topic as well. And of course, I want to thank our valued audience for joining us in this panel discussion and hopefully lending your questions, which we encourage and invite you to provide. Layer 123 can provide you with additional instructions. We will try to address them in real time, as we mentioned earlier, but if not, we will address them after the fact. And then finally, I wanted to offer everyone an excellent remaining hours in the conference. I know we're winding down on day number 3, and there's only a few sessions left. So I hope you had a very productive 2021 Layer 123 World Congress. We hope to see everyone at next year's event, and certainly in person if all goes well. So be well and be safe, and thank you once again.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, guys.
Cheers.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.